Welcome to CEL 101. My name is Megan Medina, and I'm the Associate Director for Curricular Engagement and Scholarship at the Bennion Center for Community Engagement. Today, we'll be talking about why community-engaged learning is important, what exactly is community-engaged learning, how do you develop a community-engaged learning course, and what next? What kind of supports are available for those who are doing community-engaged learning courses? So it's always important to start with why. John Dewey said, "Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself." The original intent of higher education was to create informed citizens of a community. As the flagship public university in Utah, we also believe that it is the responsibility of the university to be the university for Utah and help give back to our communities. Additionally, community-engaged learning has been identified as a high-impact educational practice by the American Association of Colleges and Universities, or AAC&U. These high-impact practices have been widely tested and shown to be beneficial for college students from all demographics. These high-impact practices increase rates of student persistence and student engagement, and especially when you talk about civic engagement, which is what community engagement falls under, it increases student involvement in democracy and shaping the world around them. How does it improve retention and graduation? Well, community-engaged learning increases students' sense of belonging, their sense of common purpose, the understanding of how the learning will be applied in the real world. It creates a sense of hope for positive change and strategies for becoming part of the solution. We've seen this play out at the University of Utah. Students who take a CEL course are more likely to graduate both in 4, 5, and 6-year graduation rates. And this is across all demographics. So how is this relevant to those who are involved in community-engaged learning? For instructors, we have found that student comprehension and retention of material is improved. The learning objectives are more easily understood, and students are more motivated. Students have their understanding enhanced. The class topics become more meaningful. They can readily make connections with professional goals, the community, and societal needs. For our community partners that we work with, they get a new audience to share their mission with. They get people on the ground to actually do the work. And we hope that if you have a long-term engagement with these community partners, that they get long-term resources that help them achieve their missions. And finally, we can't forget society. As a call to all higher education, it is really our duty to help, produce citizens that are thoughtful, that will be ethical, that will work in power with communities, and community-engaged learning is a really powerful pedagogy to achieve that goal. So what exactly is community-engaged learning? In a widely accepted definition by Bringle and Hatcher, community-engaged learning, or as they call it, service learning, is a credit-bearing educational experience in which students participate in a service activity that meets identified community needs and reflect on the service in such a way as to gain further understanding of the course content, a broader appreciation for the discipline, and an enhanced sense of civic responsibility. The Bennion Center has made an even more simplified version of our definition of community-engaged learning. And as we say, at its most basic, CEL involves students, faculty, and community partners working together to apply knowledge in authentic settings in order to address community needs while also meeting instructional objectives. We can boil that down to 3 core tenets, and we utilize this graphic from Breakaway, which is an alternative breaks national organization, but also applies directly to community-engaged learning courses. So for a course to be community-engaged learning, it has to have these 3 core tenets. The community engagement has to address and meet the educational objectives of the course. We must work in reciprocity with community partners to address community identified needs, and we must incorporate reflection into the students' assignments. So let's jump into each of those. First of all, education. The course design incorporates community engagement to enhance student learning. So some questions you can ask yourself as you're developing your CEL course is, what do students need to learn, and how can a community partner's mission help students learn that topic? Another question you can ask is, how can advocating on behalf of complex social or environmental issues help students learn the topics in your course? Second, working in power with community. The course incorporates learning objectives that address community identified needs. So you'll want to have this conversation with your community partners or potential community partners and ask, what needs does the community partner have that students can help and learn from? What social or environmental issues need attention, message amplification, or action? This key component really gets to the fact that there are many ways that we can do CEL, whether that's direct service and engagement, such as serving food or tutoring, or whether that's more things like advocacy or policy development or consultation. And finally, to be a CEL course, you must include reflection. Reflection is utilized throughout the course to enhance learning. Reflection helps students examine assumptions, beliefs, opinions, and values. It allows them to document what they have learned and assess their own quality of their work, or you as an instructor to be able to assess their learning. And finally, maybe most importantly, it fosters introspection, empathy, intercultural competence, and personal responsibility towards the community. Just as important as it is to define what is CEL, it is also important to define what is not CEL. Andrew Furco in 1996 wrote a seminal article about defining what at that time was called service learning. A core part of this was looking at these two continuums at the top. Who is the beneficiary of the action, and what is the focus of the action? So on the far left side, if you're looking at your screen, is volunteerism. The focus really is on the recipient of the action, on those who are receiving the service. And it's really focused on service, like, okay, what am I doing? There may or may not be reflection, there may or may not be education. On the other end of the spectrum are internships. The focus really is on the person providing the goods, so it's on the student and their learning. So the focus really is like, are students learning the professional skills that they need? In the middle is service learning. It is just as important for the students to consider what they are doing, the service they're providing, and who or what they're providing it to, as it is for the student to consider themselves and what they're learning. It is the middle of those two. Okay, so now that we know what CEL is, how do we actually develop a community engaged learning course? Well, you might already be teaching one. So do you explore community needs in course lectures and activities? Do you incorporate learning objectives that align with community needs? Have students work with the community partner or advocate on behalf of an issue? Do you collaborate closely with a field partner, or have students reflect on their engaged work? If you do even one of these, you are well on your way to already having a community engaged learning course. Some basic principles and best practices that you can use while developing your course are listed below. Some of the most important ones are that academic credit is for learning, not service, and that you should not compromise academic rigor. So the courses and the community engaged work you should do should not be volunteering, but should really focus on student learning in partnership with the community. The community is their classroom. Community leaders are their teachers. They can learn from the community and bring it back to the classroom, and what they learn in the classroom they can use to apply directly to the community. As an instructor, it's important to establish CEL learning outcomes. The development of quality CEL course starts with explicit learning outcomes related to the community engaged work. And along with that, you want to consider criteria for selection of your CEL projects and make sure that they're relevant to student learning and that they're relevant to your discipline. Additionally, make sure you include those educationally sound CEL assignments. You want assignments that provoke analysis, that provoke critical thinking, that relate directly back to the course context. The community engagements should be an instrument of learning. It is also really important to prepare students for learning from the community. A core tenet of all community engagement is do no harm. So we do want to prepare our students and recognize that students may come to our class on various points in their journey. Some may have a lot of experience engaging in various communities, and some may be just at the start of their experience. So prepare your students, orient them to the community project, orient them to the root causes of the issues, and give them examples of successful community engagement and awareness of community assets that already exist. We are not coming in to save anyone. Also, minimize the distinction between the students' community learning role and their classroom learning role. They are always a student and a learner. We want these CEL courses to really emphasize that there are many ways of knowing. That is a core tenet of experiential learning. And to that point, you'll want to rethink the faculty instructional role. CEL is about facilitating student learning, not solely about information dissemination. Students may learn something in the community that they can bring back to the classroom and actually teach you and their peers. And finally, this is last but not least, be prepared for variation and entropy. We are working in real communities with real people in real life and real situations, and we should expect that there'll be some variability. Prepare your students for that, prepare yourselves for that, and make these experiences, if there is changes, a great learning experience. We often learn more from where we fail or where we are lost, and that, or in ambiguity, that's where we truly find a rich soil for learning. As you are developing your course, you really want to think about your learning outcomes. At the Bennion Center, we have created some learning outcomes for all CEL courses based on civic competencies. You do not need to use these word for word in your syllabi, but I do encourage you to look at these and think which ones might apply to your course and adapt them to your course learning objectives. So when we look at CEL courses, we hope that they teach these civic competencies: civic skills, civic habits, civic values, and civic awareness. Civic skills are abilities needed to contribute to positive community change. This might be things like project management, or writing for a diverse audience, or research on a real world need. Civic habits are regular participation in community engaged learning and or scholarship. These are things that we want students to continue to do after the course concludes. You may utilize the community engaged hours that you do during your class to encourage those habits to persist after the class ends. So most community engaged learning courses, if they're 3 credits, we encourage at least 20 hours of community engagement. So really be thoughtful about how you hope students engage in those hours and what habits they might create. For civic values, this is really where reflection can come into play. Civic values are students' responsibility and commitment to the public purpose of their chosen discipline. So for you, it'd be really important to be able to clearly articulate what is the public purpose of your academic discipline. What contributions does it make to the greater community? What responsibilities does it have? And how does the activity that you're doing in your class add to and build on that civic value? Finally, there's civic awareness, and we've split this into 2. We've split it into societal and personal. The societal civic awareness has students understand the interconnectedness between individuals, society, and systems, and the underlying causes of inequities. Oftentimes, we can find that these underlying causes go across various nonprofits and various issues. We then hope that students can develop their personal civic awareness. This is their sense of place and responsibility to community issues, especially with equity, diversity, and inclusion, and sustainability. So as you think about your course and what you hope students learn from their community engagement, you can consider these civic competencies and adapt and utilize as you see fit in your context. So how can we do CEL? Often when people think about community engagement, they immediately think of direct service. So students providing service directly to individuals at the partner site, for example, tutoring or serving food or sorting food at the Utah Food Bank or working at a free health clinic. We do have many CEL courses that do direct service, and this may apply to your course and be the best way to do CEL. However, there are many ways to do community engagement, including indirect service. So you may be working, or students may be working or advocating on behalf of an issue, a population, or a community of concern, but move from the actual site. So maybe you're organizing an event for a community partner. You're doing activism or advocacy on behalf of social, environmental, or equity issues. Your students might also act as consultants. They may work with a community partner to identify a need and then develop academically based solutions for that need. I've also seen classes where you work with one community partner and each group comes up with a solution they think would work for the community partner to select. If your course provides space for students to go a little bit deeper, I would really encourage you to think about a capstone project. That's where students can utilize knowledge that they've learned over many courses and do a large project with a community partner. You could also consider doing community-based research. Students would work with the community to develop their research questions, to develop and implement their research methods, and to put together the results or product of their research and disseminate that information widely, especially to the community that has been studied. So how can students and communities interact? You can think about doing that as a one-on-one interaction. So maybe a student being an intern at a nonprofit, a student working directly with a community partner and researching a topic for them. Or you might want to split your class into small groups. So this is what I've done in one of the courses that I teach. It's an introductory course. So students really come in with variable levels of information and experience with community engagement. So it's really helpful to have groups of 3 to 5 students work with one community partner on one small project that has clear outcomes where they can all work together, and those who are a bit more advanced in their community engagement can help scaffold for those students who are brand new. Or you could do a whole class project. So you potentially could be working with one community partner and all the students are actively engaging on site or researching for that community partner. So what's the advantage of doing a single community partner versus multiple? Well, if you have all your students at one community partner site or all focused on one issue, something like food justice, then all your students are reading from a single text. They can say, oh, remember when we did this experience, and they all share that experience. However, there are also some advantages to working at multiple community partners or with multiple issues. So in that same course where I use small groups, the topic was civic leadership, a very, very broad topic. And so they worked with various nonprofits. I had them do an activity where they looked at what are the root causes of the issues that your nonprofit is working on. And what students found when they compared their reports was that there was common root causes. So we got to really dig in and say, what are some of these big underlying root causes of the issues that plague our local community? When you are developing your reflection for your course, it's important to know the importance of reflection. So this experiential learning cycle was developed by Kolb in 1984. It's a seminal article on the importance of reflection and experiential education. And Kolb said, students start with this concrete experience, and then they reflect on it. It allows them to review the experience. And that is actually how they develop abstract conceptualization, conclusions, learning from that experience. And that allows them to use that learning to then experiment and try something again. So how can you do reflection? There's many methods that you can use. Often in academia, we get really stuck in doing our written reflection. Answer this question. Do a paragraph, do a page. We can also do oral reflections in class. We can have structured reflection in small groups. Students can do this on their own in creative ways or in a group in creative ways. I have had students who have done vlogs of their experience, who have done art pieces to reflect on what they have learned or how they were feeling about an experience that they had. So you can open up, depending on your context and your discipline, how reflection really looks in your course. So the designation process. If you have a course prepared and you would like to go for the CEL designation, there is a form on the Bennion Center website, www.bennioncenter.org, on the faculty page that you will click. These are the questions that we will ask for you to answer. So please come prepared. You can also look at the form, and I would highly encourage you to develop your answers to these questions on another form, like a Word document or a Google Doc, and then to transfer them into the form once you're ready. So first, how does engagement enhance learning in your class? So this gets at core tenet of education. We want to know, A, is what you're doing in the community actually enhancing the learning of your course? And then along with that, what learning outcomes relate directly to community engagement? So we want to see that you have learning outcomes directly related to the community engagement of the course. Now related to the second core tenet, and that is working in power with communities, we ask, is there a reciprocal dialogue between the instructor and community partners as CEL projects and work are developed? We really want to work with community to come up with projects and solutions instead of putting solutions upon our communities. And along with that, working in power is, we're going to ask you, do you have specific community partners that you will be working with? Have you identified those individuals? It shows us that you're making that progress towards having those conversations and developing the course and the projects with specific community partners. And finally, what forms of reflection are incorporated in your course and how will they enhance the learning outcomes? Along with answering these short answer questions, we will also want you to submit the course syllabus. In that syllabus, we will be looking for it to explicitly say, this is a community engaged learning designated course, and then to define what is community engaged learning. You can use something like the well-accepted definition at the beginning of this presentation. You can use the Bennion Center's definition, or you can come up with your own based on your own understanding of community engaged learning as it is situated in the knowledge and research that exists. Also, your syllabus will be looking for those community engaged learning outcomes in the core learning outcomes of your course. So we want to make sure that the CEL learning outcomes address academic content, and they describe how learning will be achieved within the classroom through engaging with the community. And finally, we want to see at least 2 reflection assignments that support CEL pedagogy of the course. So if you are working on developing this class and you don't quite have your community partners, you're looking for some new ones, there are many resources available to you as an instructor. First of all, the Bennion Center. We are happy to help. We would love to support you as you look for community partners, be a sounding board for ideas. Also, there is a great CEL faculty community here on campus. We hold faculty learning community events through the Center for Teaching Excellence. So if you are not on their email list already, we encourage you to get on those. And connecting with those other CEL faculty can really provide ideas for community partners, ideas for reflection, and just a place that you can find some support. The second resource is the Utah Nonprofits Association. This is a great place to go look. They have this huge listing of Utah nonprofits, and it can even be sorted by the issue areas that they're in. So if you're looking for someone that's working with food justice or environmental issues or health, that's a great place just to find a listing of local nonprofits. And finally, don't forget about your state, county, and local agencies. You might be interested in working with the aging population and go to the Utah Division of Aging Services and ask not only could they be a community partner, but maybe they also know community organizations that you could work with. Finally, a couple special considerations as you develop your course. If your students, especially if they will be working on site at a community partner, they do need to complete the field trip waiver as listed through the legal department at the University of Utah. So I have it linked here. It is also linked on the faculty page of the Bennion Center website. So please do have your students fill that out. And if students will be working with minors, they do need to complete the youth protection training through the University of Utah. You can also find that link on the faculty page of the Bennion Center website. Some other resources, a national research source you can look up is Campus Compact. This is a national organization for community engagement, and they have a great resource section where you can find articles, seminal articles, recent articles, all about community engagement. So if you are new to the field and you just want like, okay, what are the basic articles I should have read? Or if you've been doing this for a while and you want to say, oh, what could I do to maybe make my course more socially relevant? How can I address racism or anti-Blackness in my course? There's also articles and learning communities for those various topics. So if you have all of this together and you are ready to submit your application, please go to bennioncenter.org, click on the faculty tab, and then go through and click on the button that says to submit your CEL course designation. The deadlines for submitting those are October 1st for spring classes, February 1st for summer classes, and March 1st for fall classes. After you've completed that application, and hopefully you've had success and now you have a CEL course, what's next? What supports are available to you? First and foremost, all officially CEL designated courses earn CEL SCH funding. Many people will ask, how is that funding calculated? So if you're one of those folks who really wants to know the process, here are the actual formulas that are used to calculate that CEL SCH funding. It is based on the course number and level of the course. So it is 0.25 times, depending on the course, there's a number, 95, 85, 70, or 60, times the enrollment in your class, times the number of credits. So if we use Biology 3210 as an example, we take 0.25 times, it's a 3,000 level, so 70, times the number of students that were in that course. When this example was created, that was 14, times the credit hours is 3. So for that semester, they got $735 for their CEL designated course. This funding is deposited in the chart field that you provide in your course designation application. Or if that changes, you can always email me and we will get that updated in our CEL course database. Those funds are deposited after the Office of Budget, OBIA, does all the calculations, sends them to the Bennion Center. We verify all of them and say, yes, please make the fund transfers. Fund transfers happen in 2 steps. So all of that usually happens about 8 weeks after the conclusion of the semester the CEL course was taught in. So the funding does come post course being taught. We do encourage all departments to have chart fields that are specifically for CEL funding. This allows there to be a pot of funding. So if someone's developing a new course, since the funds do come post the course being taught, if they're teaching a new course, they can pull from that fund. It also allows you to track how those funds have been used, as at the end of every academic year, we at the Bennion Center send out a survey to everyone who has a CEL course, asking them to please describe how they utilize their CEL SCH funds that semester or that year. So how can you use those CEL SCH funds? Those funds are intended for community engaged learning purposes. So anything related to community engaged learning is an appropriate way to use that. Some examples from ways that departments have used them and courses have used them. Some have used them as honoraria to community partners that are presenting in the courses. If your community engagement requires background checks, that funding can be used to pay for those background checks. Some courses will use it for a semester end celebration, or maybe a time to get together and present what they found with the community partner. Some areas have used it as stipends or salaries for CEL coordination. So if you hire someone to do this and you have many CEL courses in your department and need additional support, that's one way. Some use it for travel expenses like mileage to and from a service site, or for software, equipment, books, or other materials needed for the community engaged activity. Subscription to services that support the CEL work. So for example, if you're doing virtual tutoring and you need a specific virtual tutoring online tool that requires a subscription service, this would be a really good way to use it. And finally, another example is registration fees for CEL related conferences. So if you wanted to do that to develop your CEL faculty and their knowledge, this is a great way to do it. On the Bennion Center faculty website, there are examples of some professional organizations that are great. To name a few, are IRSlice, that one's based on research. It's IARSLCE, IRSlice, or the Society for Experiential Education, that's SEE, Society for Experiential Education, or Campus Compact are all organizations, professional organizations that work with experiential learning and specifically community engaged learning. Another support that we provide through the Bennion Center is stipends for community engaged learning assistants. These used to be called CEL teaching assistants, TAs, but we really wanted to focus on the fact that they're learning assistants. They are there and available to help support the implementation of community engaged learning in your course and help you and the students as a semester and the community partners as the semester progresses to have a successful CEL course. So CELAs can help with the CEL experience by articulating the purpose of CEL to students and the community partners, helping students and community partners prepare to work with each other. So whether that's sharing your syllabi and learning outcomes with the community partner, or sharing the community partner's mission and the project goals to students, these are great ways to utilize a CELA. They can communicate and coordinate with the community partners throughout the semester. So when I've utilized CELAs, I've had them had check-in points with community partners and check-in points with students throughout the semester. And then problem solving for community partners and students. Again, as we said, the community engaged work has variation. It requires adaptability. So this student can be someone who can help both the students, community partners, and you work through that needed adaptability. We encourage them to assist with the reflection activities around the community engagement. This would be one place where it might be okay for this learning assistant to help with grading. We try to think of these as more peer mentors and assistants rather than grading assistants. So really thinking facilitating more than grading, but this might be one appropriate place. And then they can also do things like coordinate community partner evaluations. I like to utilize a 360-degree review. So I ask not only that I as an instructor will review the students' community engaged work, but I ask the community partner to review it and the peers that were working in a group with them to review how they did. As you get to the real world, there is consequences to how you act in group work, and all community change happens through group work. If people want to work with you again, you have to be a great collaborator, and it's an important part of community engagement. So who qualifies to be a CELA? We encourage you to actually look at your own students, especially those who have taken the course before. So if you can find a former student who has performed well in your class and shown a long-term commitment and passion for community engagement and civic responsibility, those are the best contenders to be CELAs. And we provide some training and information to those students. The funds for CELAs are transferred to your department, and your department hires them to work in your department as a CELA. So these students can be graduate or undergraduate students. Now, if you are just starting a CEL course or you have not identified a student who you think might be a good fit, the Bennion Center has a pool of students that we can pull from who have taken courses that are directly on how do you do ethical community engagement that can be CELAs. So if you are looking for the Bennion Center to help, you'll just mark that on the CELA application, and we reach out to that pool of students and see if there's anyone who's interested in being a CELA for your course. So if these CELAs have access to student information and grades, most will have either information or grades. They do need to complete a FERPA training. The link and information on that about how to do that FERPA training are all on the Bennion Center's faculty website. So how do you apply? How do you get one of these? I included a little link here, but again, it's on the Bennion Center, benioncenter.org/faculty website. So you apply for those CELAs. The applications for fall are due by July 15th. The application for spring classes are due by November 15th. And due to high demand, we no longer have funding available for summer CELAs. That funding gets fully utilized during the fall and spring semesters when there are the majority of our CEL designated courses. CELAs will receive a stipend, either a 3/4 stipend of $900 or the full stipend of $1,250, depending on the size of the class and availability of funds. So if class is 25 students or larger, they will get the full $1,250 as their stipend. And then as part of the application, you will need to articulate how the CELA will facilitate the CEL experience for both the students and the community partners. How will you utilize that learning assistant, community engaged learning assistant for the outcomes of the course or courses? That takes us to the end of this workshop. If you do have any questions about any of the content, or if you would like me to do this presentation for your faculty meeting or your department meeting, I am more than happy to do that. I also can do one-on-one consultations about specific courses. Please email me or give me a call, and we are happy to support your community engaged efforts. And thank you for your interest in doing quality community engaged learning courses.